All right, just Ib, you're going to get a photo of that, and we'll put it up on Facebook.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
I know. It weighs like 20 pounds.
I love that. Hey,
it's gorgeous. I mean, it's masterfully done, I have to say. And every section is the different decades, and it literally covers everything about Napier. And the cool thing about it is she was able to interview tons of employees that worked for Napier, and a lot of them were elderly. So it was a good thing she got this done a couple years ago, because she was able to, grab all those people who had the history and the stories about Napier.
Hey, I want to just I can brag on my partner in crime over here, because as you may know, we had to recharge a little bit, so we had a little bit of a long weekend in Palm Springs.
Oh yeah, nice
which
vacay.
by the way,
yeah,
cray place. I mean, in vintage.
Yeah,
are you
California is a mecca because of the celebrities, and of course everything costs 3 to 4 times more out there.
But it's so funny because Ibby was going through. She was looking for the markings. She was looking for the various things and asking all the right questions.
She's a good student.
She came out with a stack of cards to people who want to be on your show.
Oh, really? Awesome.
I passed one on to her as well from the shop called Dazzles, and they're going to connect. And there's another store as well. So
I can't wait to talk with them. That'd be great to have them on the show.
I'm going to let you get things all teed up and go, but I just wanted to let everybody know, because we have people, best question of the day. We're going to give a free ICRV radio T-shirt. How about that?
Cool.
There you go.
And
it'll be a vintage one.
I'll sweeten the pot, Dave. They'll also get a $50 gift certificate to my store.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you.
Oh, how sweet is that?
I don't joke about that.
I gotta. Yeah. All right, so I've talked long enough. Why don't you jump into this stuff, and I'm going to get our guest on the phone. Okay?
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. Well,
where do we start?
I know. Well, I have so many questions for her. And actually, I emailed a little over 1,200 of my customers yesterday about the show. So I know I have a couple of ladies from Italy listening in. Buonvenuto.
Oh.
And actually, I have customers all over the country and all over the world. But I do have quite a few customers in the Connecticut area, New York, Massachusetts. So I hope they're all listening in. And I told them to email, go to the ICRV Radio's Facebook page.
Yes, I posted something there.
To call in. We'd love to have your comments and questions. So
join the thread and bring your questions there, and we'll share them with you, Gay.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Melinda Lewis is out in California, but she has a background in Connecticut. So, but I'm curious. Hey, Melinda.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you out there in California?
Doing great. A nice, crisp, sunny morning.
Oh, well, we've got a crisp, cold morning here. Lots of snow. But I was joking about your book, Melinda, that I had to actually drive my car down the hill to the studio. I usually walk, but your book is so heavy.
She got a workout.
Yeah, it's literally a tome of Napier information.
Well, thank you. When I first started out, I expected it to only be 288 pages, and it grew and grew and grew until it weighs like nearly 10 pounds.
Yeah, it's awesome. Congratulations. It's really an amazing book, and anybody I've ever showed it to is widely impressed. So kudos to you on this book. And I can't wait. I have so many questions. First one being, how did you get the idea, or how did you get started with researching Napier?
Well, in 2001, I had the opportunity to buy part of the archive when they were emptying the plant.
Oh, man. Lucky duck.
Yes. And I had 24 hours to make the decision, and I was able to pull everything together and bought it.
Nice.
And then when it arrived, I really realized that I had no idea what I was looking at, and I had zero information in terms of being able to identify my pieces and, to decades and genres and that type of thing. And that really started me on this quest to learn more. Mm-hmm. and there was only one paragraph on the internet that was actually copy and pasted from a book that described Napier in a way that wasn't what I was necessarily seeing. So it just kind of took off from there.
Yeah, so you saw a need and you felt you had to fill that void, huh?
Yes, most definitely.
Awesome. Now, one of the things that impressed me about your book, besides the photographs, which are awesome, I mean, you feel like when you go through the pages of your book, you feel like the piece is in your hand, which is great. But the information that you got from all the employees that you interviewed, many of which were elderly, because the company's been around it was around for 110 years or so.
121 or 125, kind of depending on where you look at the cutoff date. And I was very, very fortunate to interview 53 people who had worked for Napier.
Wow.
I even delayed my honeymoon and took my honeymoon, went to Meriden, Connecticut, and had lunch with the Napier employees on my honeymoon.
What a nice husband you must have.
He was awesome.
Yeah, you're probably still paying the price for that one.
You'll have to get together with my husband sometime. He can relate.
Did a marathon photograph and shoot at Cindy Scholda's house. I just had a wonderful time, and actually spent time in the homes of a couple of people, a couple of former salesmen, one of which became my co-author. I felt that I needed to honor him because we literally emailed back and forth every day for
Henry
8
Sven,
years.
right?
Henry Swin, and he's from Meriden, now living in Florida. And my goodness, the conversations that we had and that he would facilitate with the other members or the other employees, and Ron Mione, who got me set up with the first initially just 6 contacts, and then it grew from there. Yeah. I could not have put this book together without their help, because I actually didn't have access to the archives.
Right.
So all of this was put together from memory, and then as the internet developed over the years, more and more information was available either on microfilm or like archive.org and that type of thing. So I would make discoveries by doing internet researches into...
Right. I want to take you back to what you were saying about the employees, because this radio station is all about the stories. And really, I know our listeners are just dying to hear some of these stories about the employees. Was there one that really stood out to you as far as employee stories or their story with Napier?
There were so many great stories. One that was shared during a luncheon was by Charlotte Lohman, who's no longer with us, and she told the story about how, for some reason, she hopped up on a conveyor belt, and then Mr. Napier walked in.
She was like surfing the conveyor belt.
I can't remember what exactly. Oops. And she was such a lovely petite woman, and to have this vision of her up on the conveyor belt, kind of goofing off type of thing was
hey,
quite funny. And then the stories of they always knew when Mr. Napier was coming back from New York, because fresh palm trees would be put in his office. So that was kind of like a hint that the boss was coming back home.
Interesting. He had a thing for palm trees?
I guess so. I'm not sure why that was an important plant to him, but yes.
Interesting.
He would have these little palm trees put back. Another interesting story was that when people would go to his office in New York, he would have sit on this little stool in front of his desk. So if you look in my book, there's a picture of the president's office, and you'll see a little stool in front of his desk. And I think it was kind of like this dominance thing, so you'd have a large salesman.
It's like a little kid, sitting on a stool.
Looking at Mr. Napier. But all in all, they just loved the company. It was family-oriented. No one really had anything bad to say. They were very, very protective of the company's history and of Mr. Napier, which I truly had to respect. And there were some stories that were shared that will never be published, of course. And it kind of, for me, in those little tidbits, it made telling the story in a fair manner really kind of interesting while honoring some of those off-the-record requests.
Hey,
Melinda,
so Napier, the history is over 100 years, right?
Yes.
I mean, at what point though was it chic? Was it like had it gotten to the level of quality where everybody knew you were, you wanted Napier? I mean, it certainly had to have taken a while for its reputation to catch up with the vision. Yes.
Actually, it was really in the forefront of fashion and design at the turn of the century and during the 1920s, and then it during the 1950s as well. It was in Bergdorf's and Saks. It was on Fifth Avenue. It was quality jewelry, and they were a small company, but in terms of fashion and quality and desirability, it was really a high-end line. Although a lot of people think of it being more just metals like a Monet or, oh, that's Napier. They think of it being more tailored, but it really was an incredible company that competed against two major forces in the fashion jewelry industry, that being Trifari and Monet. And so...
and they had a pretty major designer, Eugene Bertoli, whose designs for Napier were pretty trend-setting, weren't they?
They were amazing. And one of the interesting things about Napier was that all of the designers were, at the time, they were silversmiths. And they knew how to work with metals and textures and doing carving for the models and that type of thing. So they knew the art inside and out. I mean, they were really, really trained artisans. And so Napier was very fortunate to have a core group of designers, especially during the 50s, which was Warren D'Antoni, Eugene Bertoli, and why am I going blank on the third? Fred Rettenmeyer, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I actually have a Eugene Bertoli piece in my hand right now that has, I believe it's from the 50s. It has a massive Aurora Borealis stone in the center, and then it has, it's kind of like a blossom of leaves. That's just absolutely gorgeous.
I can see it all the way across this round table here. I'll take a picture of it to zero in.
Hey, Gay, do I have it right that it is Napier where the approach was not an assembly line approach? It was artisan saw the work all the way through?
Right. They were definitely unique in the fact that each piece was individually made by one person. Is that correct, Melinda?
Well, there were different phases of making the jewelry, but it was all done in-house. There was someone that may have done the plating and someone that may have applied the pearls. And so there were different stages in the assembly, but it was all done in-house from design concept all the way through production and packaging. So they were hands-on through
So they didn't contract out to anybody.
And was that a novel approach to production?
I would think that when you compare it to, say, Monet and Trifari, yes, it was. They made their own models. They had people that created the dyes and reworked the dyes and reworked the models and that type of thing. And no other manufacturer really was doing that. So they worked in the three different methods of jewelry making. They did some casting. They did wire manipulation, they did stringing, so they could address the different types of fashion jewelry, whereas most of the other companies specialized mainly in one facet. Napier did it all.
Yeah.
And they did it in-house.
And if you have any questions for Melinda or for Gay or for Ibby, for that matter, or even Mike, send it to info@icrvradio.com. That's info@icrvradio.com.
We do have a remark on Facebook that just came in from Jennifer Levine Beck. She says, listening fantastic.
Awesome.
Yay!
We like having fans. I think that's one of my customers.
Well, we're delighted you're tuning in, Jennifer.
Awesome.
She's one of my club members. I have 5,700. Yes, my co-founder and I have 5,700 Facebook members.
There you go. Hey, how much would somebody have paid for this? If I'm going down, so you're telling me that it's Fifth Avenue, so I'm in New York, and I'm spending, and it would be like the 40s or 50s, the 50s, let's say. How much am I going to spend on a Napier item, like Gay, the one that you're holding up right now?
Like this Eugene Bertoli pendant necklace.
How much would I be spending?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what piece Gay has, but surprisingly, the pieces would go up. They'd range anywhere from maybe $4 or $5 for a pair of earrings up to $75 for a piece. And they never sold things in sets. They sold them individually. So a woman could have invested, say, $100, $125 on a set back then.
Right.
Yeah, which now is worth 4 to 5 times that.
Yeah.
So a lot of these sets are in the $300 to $500 range. She actually valued the pieces in the book. Today's prices on average.
Wow.
Yeah,
right.
Not too shabby.
And the thing about Napier is that the quality was so wonderful that you can pick up a piece that's 60, 70, 80 years old, and it will still be in great shape. Rarely do you come across a piece of Napier that did not stand the test of time. I mean, they had such great controls on their plating and production and everything that it's very hard to find a piece of Napier that doesn't look absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, this one I have here is from the 50s. I mean, you would think that you bought it today.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty mint condition. I actually, in the hundreds of Napier pieces that I've bought and sold, I don't think really the only ones that I ever had any condition issues were the ring bands, because they got worn so much on somebody's finger over the years. If it was a well-loved ring, but other than that, most of the pieces I have, the plating is just basically totally intact.
Melinda, I just posted on Facebook a photograph, if you have access to your computer, of the piece that she was just sharing with you.
I'll have to turn.
Don't worry. Don't get distracted here, because we got a lot of ground to cover. Let me ask you something, Melinda. If for somebody who is interested in collecting, is Napier a tried and true, like you definitely want this as part of your collection? You want to have a few Napier pieces? I
think so, but I'm kind of prejudiced in that way.
Well, you wrote the book.
I'll say yes to that.
Yes.
I encourage all my collectors to get Napier pieces personally.
The great thing about Napier was it was not mass-produced in the way that other jewelry was manufactured. With as little as just 25 pieces of any one particular design. So if you're lucky, you can find some of those lesser produced pieces, and they really become unique fashion statements where you're not going to find it on every woman walking down the street. And that's one of the things that I love about Napier, is that even if you're in a room with a lot of people, it's not likely that you're going to come across someone that has in the business where we're looking every single day for things. It's just a really great look, and your piece is going to be fairly unique in the grand scope of things.
Did and all of your back and forth, all your conversations with is it Mr. Swen, who was the kind gentleman with whom you collaborated, and he gave you so much insights. Did he share with you what Napier meant to the Lower Connecticut River Valley, or to the River Valley in general, to Connecticut? I mean, it must have meant an awful lot in our economic landscape. Yes.
Oh, most definitely. I think Napier really was in the. I think of Napier as being in the blood of Connecticut and the blood of Meriden, in the sense that it was family. It was multi-generational, and if you didn't work at Napier, someone else worked at Napier. I mean, it really was an important part of the community. They supported their community greatly with scholarship funds and raising for charities and that type of thing.
Yeah, I read about that they, even after they closed their doors, their foundation kept going. Is that right?
Yes, and it's still
active?
going today, and it's
cool.
going strong. Yeah.
Nice.
It is. It's very nice, and that was started, I believe, in 1955. And so that fund has been going for over 60 years, giving back to the community.
Awesome. Speaking of the community and today, I'm curious if there are any plans to open a Napier Museum in the Connecticut area to honor this, major industry in our state.
It really was. I have not contacted any facilities as of yet, and perhaps the Connecticut University might be a great start, or even working with the Meriden Historical Society. It would be great to have an exhibit to pay tribute to this company that had over a century of history in one city, and I would love to see that. And my hope is someday actually to have part of my collection, or pieces from my collection as well as from other collectors, to do a traveling exhibit, because
that's
I really
a good
hope that
idea, like a trunk show or something.
Just go from museum to museum. I had a couple of pieces in the Forbes Museum, and I just got back a couple of pieces by Eugene Bertoli that were at the Carnegie Museum. So there is interest in Napier jewelry. I would just like to see a collection that covered the entire history of Napier.
Now, what is your favorite piece out of your entire collection?
Probably the one that I love to wear. It's really hard to choose a favorite. Is the horseshoe nail piece, which is a big kind of plastron piece from the 70s by Eugene Bertoli. It's got the old square nails.
Oh yeah.
That kind of fan out, and then
I know that piece.
Yeah, it's a big, chunky, sharp piece.
Edgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love wearing that one. Before I even really knew about Napier, the Kumquat series was a series that I actually had started collecting before this whole project began.
Yeah, that's probably one of their more famous.
Yes.
Which I'd never seen that color combination before.
You don't see that one often. No.
Yeah. Damn, I should have snagged it.
You must be up at all hours doing shopping and trading and swapping. And
oh my God.
I mean, are there certain times of the day when you're doing this that are busier for that kind of activity than others, or is just any time? Do you get up in the middle of the night?
Oh, well, yeah. Sometimes I set my alarm for when an auction is about to end. Literally, because if it's something like I'm really passionate about, I can have my alarm set for 1:45 and the auction ends in 10 minutes, and I'm just like sitting there watching, the dollar amount, hoping it doesn't go up too much, so I can snag this piece.
I'm sure Gay and I have bid against each other numerous times. In fact, I know that we have.
Yeah, I'm sure we have, because we're going after the best.
Right. Melinda, we just had a message come in from another listener on the email here. Gina Germaine Basil writes, listening to Melinda right now and loving it. Hi, Melinda.
Yeah,
Hi, Gina.
yeah, there's some stuff coming in on Facebook. I got a question as we're trying to get people to serve up some questions here, and best question gets some serious swag here. But what's the, and send them in to info@icrvradio.com. But what's the best question someone's given you, Melinda?
Oh my goodness. Well, I sent a question the other day that really had me thinking, and it was, what is my holy grail piece that I would love to find? And I've actually spent a lot of time searching for it, and I have never seen it before. And that is a huge bangle designed by Antonio for Napier in the mid-1960s. He did these kind of like space-age pieces, and it's a huge aluminum foil bangle that's just phenomenal, that I would die and go to heaven if I ever came across it. And
is it a
it's
cuff?
Probably. Pardon me?
Is it a cuff bracelet, or it goes all the way around?
It goes all the way around.
Okay.
It's square-edged. It's large. It probably measures about 7-8 inches in diameter. I mean, it's
Okay.
huge.
Is
And,
it how wide is it?
Probably about an inch and a half or so.
Okay. Well, see,
Like a
now
big-
you've got me going on your quest now, too.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll keep an eye out for you. I do that for Jill Galena, my Christmas tree pin friend.
Yes.
If you tell me what you're looking for, because I look at thousands of pieces a day, I'll scope it out for you.
Gay, you mentioned that you have followers that listen in from Italy, and they are. And is the vintage jewelry thing, it is a global fascination?
Oh, yeah. Well, in fact, people from around the world are very much focused on our vintage jewelry because, most of the best companies were based out of this country in Providence, Rhode Island.
And Melinda,
Napier.
was Napier an internationally renowned company, or only in these more recent years, as one is into the treasure troves of these companies and vintage collecting? Is it only recent, or was it internationally renowned from the get-go?
They had offices in Paris in the 20s, and they did have, in the 1980s, I think it was when it started, they had their offices in London, and there was England, and there was actually a different line for that market. The jewelry was a little bit different for the European market. I'm not sure if it was as well known, but Napier was certainly known for bringing ideas from Europe and from Paris back to the U.S. And they did that, they were doing that before the turn of the century. Actually, they would go over, Mr. Bliss would go over, and then later other designers would go over, and they continued that type of interaction with the European market for decades.
Well, and they had an Italian named designer, Eugene Bertoli.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a model that's proved somewhat successful in a lot of different businesses. Go over to Europe, find out what's good, and then bring it here.
Oh, absolutely. They went over for stones. They went over for stampings. They went over to look at the leather goods, and they were doing that. If during my research, I would see the ship manifestos, I think that's what you call it, where it lists all the passengers going over. And so that was really fascinating to see when, like, Mr. Napier made his trip over, or William Bliss made his trips over. And it was just fun to see the times that they were traveling to Europe to bring back ideas.
So let me ask you something, because there can be two buckets of shoppers here. There could be the aspirational, where it's somebody that's saved up forever and it's like, I deserve this, and they're going to buy their great item. I'm going back into the 20s, 30s, or later, and then there are the others that don't want their diamonds to go down with the ship, so they're bringing costume jewelry instead of their really expensive stuff. Who would have been the typical shopper for Napier back in the day? Or is it both?
Actually, it was really both. Napier catered to both demographics, and that was the great thing about Napier is it had price points and designs that really benefited a spectrum of economic and social backgrounds. So the college girl could buy a piece of Napier, or the housewife, if you will, could save up, and the way that they sold things individually, she might save to buy one piece this week and then maybe another piece a couple weeks later. But the great thing about Napier with their marketing was once it was gone, it was kind of gone. So there was that incentive, even though things weren't sold into sets, to get that repeat customer fairly fast. It was really joy for all the people.
We have a question here from Jennifer Beck. She asks, Melinda, could you discuss the ending of jewelry manufacturing in the East and what happened to the Napier Company?
Well, the Napier Company was bought by Victoria Co. in 1999, and the plant, it was initially thought that business was going to stay the same. The whole industry really began to suffer in the 70s, and then by the 90s with a lot of outsourcing, it just fundamentally changed the jewelry manufacturing industry, both in Meriden and in Providence, Rhode Island. Things came to a screeching halt, and unfortunately for Napier, through a lot of back and forth, the decision was made to close the plant in 1999, and the brand is actually still being made. It's a completely different product today. It was bought up by Jones New York, and then Jones New York was sold, I think, within the last year and a half. And I'm not sure what the direction is of the line, but I know that it can be found in Kohl's and I believe Target and that type of thing. And it's a completely different product. It's a product that's made, I believe, overseas.
It's not the same quality or design for sure. It's not Napier anymore.
No. For me, when I think of Napier, I think of it up to 1999.
Yeah.
And then the history. Right now, it's a name, but it's not.
You said things started to come to a screeching halt in the 70s, and I noticed that Napier had a major ad campaign in the 70s. It was actually fairly remarkable, and they had all these catchy taglines to their ads. Napier is slinkier, Napier is sexier. They had all these slogans. Was that sort of like a last...
Gosh, I'm going blank. I want to say in the late 60s, but it could have been, I think it was the late 60s or 19. The longest running campaign.
I've seen at least like 30 of those ads. There are a lot of them.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. They're very, very, actually very provocative when you think about
for that time period.
Woman. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, they were very successful for the company. Trying to look at my book here right now and see when it started, but yeah, I think it was during the late 1960s, and it ran through part of the 80s until they changed the ad campaign to Napier, not the unusual you, or not the usual you.
Well, right now, Jennifer is in the lead for the swag here.
That was a good question.
So that's a great question, and we encourage you to send them in to info@icrvradio.com, or do exactly what Jennifer did, and that is just make a comment on the Facebook. What's your favorite Napier piece?
Well, probably this one because it's a rare one. It's a charm bracelet. Napier was known.
That is huge.
Yeah. This is not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
That is huge. huge.
It's Melinda, I'm holding up a charm bracelet that I believe is from the 50s. It has these sort of cagey-looking lanterns, and there's a little lucite ring at the top of the lantern that's in green, citrine, blue, red, and purple. And then there's a lucite faceted ball inside the cage with a filigree bead cap, and then it's got a little lucite faceted bead dangling from each one. But they look like little Chinese or Asian lanterns.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a
Love that piece.
Yeah, it's a pretty distinct piece. I mean, I've always thought of attaching a chain to it and maybe wearing it as a necklace, because I don't know if I could wear it as a bracelet, because I'm a
One
pretty
thing for sure is
petite person.
People are going to know you're on the way 5 minutes before you show up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a very distinct piece. And I also love my Art Deco piece, because you don't find many of the deco pieces. And a lot of people don't know that Napier did sterling.
Now, I love that. That's really cool.
It's got links that have beautiful etching on it, and it's got these bullet-shaped sapphire blue glass stones in it, and it's just exquisitely made. Of course, Napier made a lot of things out of sterling that weren't jewelry too. Like I have the little jiggers, the shot jiggers that have the little hands on them. The one with the one shot with the hand with the one finger up, and the other jigger that has the hand with the two fingers up for the two shot. And they made piggy banks. A lot of our listeners might remember the Napier piggy banks. They had an elephant and a pig.
Oh, yeah?
That was like a favorite shower gift, I know, in the 50s and 60s. I actually have the pig one that my mom got when I was born. And I was born in 68, so...
They were making the piggy banks back in the 30s as well. There's some
really?
There's some fun ones, yes. I do have a friend in Connecticut who collects the piggy banks. Some of them are jeweled. There's some that are sterling. There's some that are base metals. You can there's like a jeweled elephant one and a jeweled pig one, and right now on eBay there's a phenomenal clown one that I think dates to the 1930s.
Oh yeah, I've seen the clown one. Actually, my husband said that he had that one.
That it's quite rare. So they made phenomenal giftware too, and they were known for that as well. They were known for their cigarette cases and their compacts. They
had flasks too, right?
Pardon me?
They had the liquor flasks.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen actually a lot of those, the cigarette cases and the flasks and those sort of thing. I've seen them on eBay and Etsy, and they go for a pretty sporty price, like $300 to $500 and more.
They do, and some of the very rare enamel pieces from the 1930s are well into $1,200, $1,800. The vanity items were quite popular. They did a lot of vanity items again in the 50s and 1960s, all the way up to they were featuring until 1974. I think is when they stopped making giftware items and just started focusing on
the jewelry. Yeah, we're gonna be wrapping up, Melinda, but to end our program, I really want to hear another story. Either you talked about them going to Europe and then Napier being a family. I don't know if you have any sort of Napiers of family related stories or travel stories, anything that sticks out in your mind.
Mr. Napier actually, I know for a couple of employees, and I mentioned this in my book, he actually paid out of his own pocket for at least one of his salesmen to go back to school and get his degree. And he wanted his salespeople to be educated, and even Mr. Rettenmeyer was invested. They helped their employees become better people by paying for art school. Sometimes Mr. Rettenmeyer would tell someone to go sketch by a lake, to bring up design inspiration and that type of thing.
So sounds like he started the tuition program, huh?
Hey, Ib,
I have a couple of last-minute questions that are coming in here.
We have
These
some,
are good ones.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Barbara Moretti just emailed in. Here is my question for Melinda and Gay. How do you get inspired when you create a new jewelry piece?
Yeah, so how would the craftsmen or the designers, what would have been their inspirations?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I know for William Rettenmeyer, especially with his travels to Europe, he would sketch what he'd see on the streets of Paris. And so I do have some of these old renderings that will say, like Lalique featured at the store. Or it may have just been an archway or a unique component on a building. So a lot of inspiration came from things that weren't necessarily jewelry, but there was an element that they saw that could be made into a phenomenal piece.
I love that. I think that's fascinating, and I am quite certain that the person who asked that question is actually a good shopper, and probably thrilled to hear that of the European influence because that email came in from the United Kingdom.
Oh,
wonderful.
Here's one that just came in from an American. This is from Linda. Her question is, what makes something vintage? Purely the age? And she says, and my family had tons of Napier jewelry as we knew it was made in Meriden. None of it was fancy or expensive, but do you know where or to whom they may have sold their expensive jewelry?
Oh, goodness. They sold their, you mean their customer, to whom they sold it would be the high fashion stores in New York, boutiques around the country, Dillard's, Saks, Bergdorf, Burke's. They really even like stationery stores, that type of thing. Department stores that had baby departments. Goodness, just
a lot of venues.
a lot of venues.
And the vintage question is usually something has to be at least 20 to 25 years old to be considered vintage. Antique has to be at least 100 years old.
And so long as that's the sole criterion?
That's the sole criteria. Of course, then you go into, levels of quality, but yeah, vintage is purely the age of the item.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There you go.
This has been, Melinda, this has been so kind of you to spend so much time with us. And, Gay, you know how much you are a welcome part of the ICRV radio family. But, ladies, thanks so much for sharing your passion and expertise. And, we're just getting in shape, just turning the pages of this 15-pound book of yours, Melinda. But if it's okay with you, because this is an ongoing conversation for us as we celebrate all things vintage and the great places that people in our area can do a little treasure trove shopping, etc., and collecting. We'd love to have you back if that's all right.
Oh, that would be wonderful. And if anyone wants more information about Napier too, they can just go to napierbook.com. I have a number of blog posts that are not in the book, little tidbits of information, as well as some Napier jewelry. And the book's less than half price right now, so it's a great opportunity to come take a peek.
Well, we have some buzzer beaters here. Hold on a sec. Don't hang up the phone yet.
So here's a couple of Facebook questions. I have one from Michael Hamilton, who writes, I was wondering if you could ask Melinda about Wendy Gell and her relationship with Disney and Napier jewelry. There were so many of us Disney fans out here, and Wendy was pretty instrumental in creating successful jewelry for Disney and Napier alike. Any interesting stories about this you can share?
Well, doing the Disney part of the book was very, very interesting because every aspect of that section had to be approved by Disney. So the interesting thing with Wendy was I wanted to share her original renderings and her process of how she came up with specific designs, and Disney would not let me. I could only show finished renderings of items, and I thought that was quite interesting, that they were very protective and not allowing kind of the organic process to be to be shown. But the line that she worked on, I believe, ran for a couple of years. There was hundreds of pieces that were collected. It was not cheap. Very, very. It's a great line, actually. The quality is terrific. She, I think, began her talks with Napier around 1993, and I believe that the part that she was involved in ran for just 2 years, from 93 to 94. Wendy's a terrific person, and she's actually a friend and a supporter of my organization. So I take that back. It's 1995 that she started to work for them. So they were working on the line before, and she came on board in 1995.
You are a wealth of information. I have one more question, too, for you. This one from Gail Cunningham. Are Napier Moonglow Tropicana fruit charm bracelet charms available as single charm purchases? And is there an inventory or list of all the different charms?
There isn't a list. I actually didn't have enough space in my book, so I only put a handful of bracelets in, and had hoped to do a book just on charm bracelets, but they made hundreds of designs. There's also a lot of fakes out there, and I go into that detail in my book, which is really sad because some of the findings became available on the secondary market, and so there are some people trying to sell things as Napier when in fact it's just something that they kind of put together. So you have to be careful when you buy a Napier charm bracelet, unfortunately. If someone's looking for a missing charm, say like the ones for the Tropicana, the only thing that I can suggest is to search for a single earring to possibly fill in where they're missing something. There
or
are
another bracelet
groups.
That's missing charms.
Exactly.
That's what I do
Harvest
sometimes.
From that, yeah, and Harvest from that. There are some Facebook groups that just focus on single earrings when someone's looking for a match. So it may be a great place to look for missing charms. The charms were just kind of created with what was available in the stockroom. So Mr. Rittenmeyer would come up with a design, and someone would call and say, I want something with this theme, and he'd put something together. Or Eugene would do the same, and then Mike, during Mike's time, they had a couple of charm bracelets, but there was essentially something in the line almost every year. That was a charm bracelet, so it would be pretty darn hard to have a full list.
Well, I think those were some pretty darn good questions.
Yeah, so who's the swag winner?
I'll tell you,
It's a hard one.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Well, tell me.
Every one of the questions on our side gets a free ICRV radio T-shirt. So that's what we're going to do.
Yay!
Or maybe you want to pick a winner for the $50 gift certificate, Melinda? Which question did you think that was the best one?
Well, I am going to pick Jennifer for being so persistent and stepping up and asking some great questions.
There you
Jennifer
go.
Beck.
Awesome.
Great.
Jennifer, I'll be contacting you for that $50 gift certificate to my show.
How about for the other three a $10 gift certificate?
I can do that.
Can we do that?
Sure.
All right. So the other questions get get a nice second place finish. And that's very kind of you.
Yeah, no problem.
And we should say it's probably a minimum purchase, right? Because you can't.
Yeah, I would say.
Anyway, we'll make sure that we'll contact these folks through Facebook.
And that's for my shop, Under the Sea on Ruby Lane.
Yeah, Under the Sea on Ruby Lane, and people can find you directly through that shop, right?
Yep.
And Melinda, how can people be in touch with you? Is there a Facebook page or anything?
There is a Facebook page, The Napier Book, and the best way is to reach me through the website, thenapierbook.com or napierbook.com.
And we should say, although we prefer it to be purchased through brick and mortar, but I know that it's available and for sale at Amazon and likely other great bookstores. Yes?
Yes. Well, actually, even when someone orders through Amazon, I'm filling the order, so it's going to the source.
Got it.
Yeah, she's the brick and mortar.
You're the brick and mortar. There you go. All right. Well, this is fantastic. It's been an awful lot of fun, and there's so much more to talk about. Actually, that my guess is there are future visits and future shows to be done, and we might actually have to put a landline into your home.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's a 1,000-page book, Dave. So
it's a lot of ground to cover,
Yeah.
and we want to thank all the listeners sending in questions, and encourage everybody that if you have questions and topics for future episodes of If This Brooch Could Talk, to send it into info@icrvradio.com, send it into the Facebook, send it to Ibby, send it to me, whatever, and we encourage you to do that, because this is really a fascinating a piece of our programming, and we're thrilled that it is launched, and look forward, Melinda, to future visits, all right?
Wonderful. I'd be delighted to come back.
Thanks so much for visiting.
thanks, Melinda.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.
And thank you, Gay. And,
Yeah, she was an awesome guest. I had a feeling that was going to be a pretty cool show with her, because just looking at her book, it's like, wow.
There are so many wonderful pictures in that book. And speaking of pictures, Holly Knowles published a photograph of a recent Napier deco that she found. And she wanted to share it with you.
That's
so I'm
awesome.
sharing this across the table with you from our Facebook page.
Really nice piece. Yeah, if you get a chance to go to the ICRV Radio Facebook page, you can see this absolutely gorgeous Napier bracelet that I'm drooling over here.
Now, is that from someone who's local, Ib?
Thank you for sending that in, Holly Knowles. No, I don't have the address.
So we don't know. Mm-hmm. So here's what I'm tossing out is that we got this big round table. It's from a 1950s, 60s hotel in New York, and it's an old banquet table. We got the round table with all these microphones so that actually we can put people at the table. And what we would love to do is to have some of these collectors actually come in and participate and ask questions and share their stories and talk, because
please come to the studio if you're within a driving distance of Ivoryton, Connecticut.
Yeah,
definitely come on down for any one of the shows.
We look forward to subsequent visits, and always fun.
Always fun. Never a dull moment with Gay. Thank you so much.
Gay Sherman-Wentz, thanks so much for
You're welcome.
another installment of
It
If
was
This Brooch Could Talk.